Welcome, everyone, to the first of the Episcopal Church Medical Trust's 2022 Group Plan Selection and Annual Enrollment Webinar Series. Today's presenters are Andrew Brown, Business Analyst for CPG's Benefits Policy, and Akina Warner, Account Specialist for IBAMS. Welcome, Akina and Andrew. So Andrew, I am going to give it over to you now.
Alrighty, you can hear me, right, Bob?
Yes.
Very good, thank you. If you'll take me to the next slide. Good to be with everybody today. We're gonna be moving at a pretty brisk clip. We do have a lot to cover in this half hour. Before we begin with the agenda, just to let you all know that the focus audience for our webinar today are administrators who are managing the health plan renewal process, or the plan selection process for their participating groups. These are primarily senior MLPS administrators. So there might be some folks on the line today attending this webinar who assist employees with the annual enrollment process, but they're not necessarily involved with group plan selection, and that's okay. We're more than happy to have you here. We just want to be sure that you're aware that this information is really being presented today to those senior MLPS administrators. Might not necessarily pertain to work you're doing in your administrative role, but welcome. And for today's agenda, we'll be reviewing, as we said, the Medical Trust Health Plan renewal process, what it is, how you can prepare for it as a senior group administrator. We're also going to spend a good bit of time today talking about the Medical Trust Health Plan pricing methodology. And I want to be clear that today we're not releasing the average rate change for 2022 on this webinar. Our plan pricing team is still hard at work collaborating with our actuarial partners and with your IBAMS account specialists to arrive at those final ratings. But today we're going to discuss the process, the real nuts and bolts by which Medical Trust arrives at those final rates, factors that are considered, industry trends, the pricing process, et cetera, et cetera. And then time permitting, we'll take some time for questions. So without further ado, Bob, if you'll bring me to the next slide here. It's just taking a minute for me. And I think we're going to hand this on over to Akina to walk through health plan renewal planning. Take it away, Akina.
All right, thank you, Andrew. So on this slide here, we situate ourselves and illustrate the seamless annual journey by which the Medical Trust provides its clients and our members with health benefits from planning to enrollment. It starts off with plan policy and design work. Then we progress through plan pricing. The final segments of the end-to-end journey are those that this audience is most familiar with: the health plan renewal, also known as plan selections, and member annual enrollment. Today we'll be focusing on the pricing and renewal segments of the end-to-end journey. Next slide, please, Bob. All right, so let's take a deeper dive into the several milestones of our journey. The Medical Trust is hard at work all year round in our effort to offer quality benefits to our members. The first milestone is work performed by the Benefits Policy team in collaboration with our internal and external partners called Policy and Design. This is where we perform benchmarking, analyze trends in the benefits industry to ensure we're offering meaningful, valuable benefits to you, our clients. We also listen to our clients. We listen to you, collecting feedback about the benefits and services we offer. This is truly a partnership, and we value what our administrators, church leaders, and members have to say about their experience, their thoughts, needs, and expectations of the plan. And of course, we evaluate the needs of the changing church as a whole. The next milestone is pricing, the extensive process to set plan rates for each group for the coming year. As Andrew alluded to, the pricing process involves thorough assessment and collaboration between Medical Trust financial analysts and the IBAMS account managers to help ensure that those establishing the prices for your plans know about your local circumstances. More to come on this later in the webinar. The next milestone, plan renewal, also known as group plan selection, concludes when each group selecting the plan or plans that will be offered by your group and its employees for the coming year. Again, plan renewal is when the rates are introduced. This is where you come in. The plan renewal process is one of the primary focuses of today's webinar. All MLPS, medical and life participant system senior administrators have the important responsibility of making selections for their groups. The plans selected here are the plans that will be offered to your employees during the next segment of our journey, annual enrollment. With that said, the final milestone on our journey is annual enrollment, or AE, and this concludes when individual members review and select new health plans for the new year. Next slide, please, Bob. Okay, so here is an overview of the annual enrollment timeline. So for some of you, this will be a refresher. However, this may be very beneficial, especially for our newer administrators. This slide dives into the details of the annual journey we just reviewed. The year-long process that ends with your employees having health benefits for 2022 can be broken into 3 major segments: pre, main, and post-enrollment. Today, we'll focus on the August and October segments of the timeline. So first off, pre-annual enrollment. There is first the plan array process. So this is the fruit of the policy and design segment. New plan offerings and designs and plans going away are decided in this segment. As an aside, for 2022, the Medical Trust is not introducing any new health plans or carriers, nor is the Medical Trust sunsetting any existing health plans or carriers. So that's good news. The plan array that has been developed over the past 5 years continues to be the menu of options to be made available for clients. Next, we have the pricing process, which we'll talk about later, the renewal production, and then the production of renewal supporting materials, which includes the annual enrollment guide, otherwise known as the AE guide, the summary of benefits and coverage, and then we also have plan comparison charts, which are available upon request through your IBM's account manager. Next up, we have annual enrollment member communications. This also includes the depending aging out letters, DAO letters, for which these letters are when dependents reach the plan's limiting age and are no longer eligible for coverage. As you know, the Medical Trust, or as you may know, the Medical Trust allows dependent children to be covered until the end of the plan year in which they reach age 30. These letters notify the dependents and subscribers of the dependents aging out of our coverage at the end of the plan year. It's important to note dependents who reach the plan's limiting age, 30, and age out are not eligible for the Medical Trust Continuation of Coverage Program, otherwise known as the Extension of Benefits offering. Next, we have our active member letters and brochures and the retiree member letters. Our next segment, main annual enrollment. So the plan renewals release date this year will be Thursday, August 26th. So you want to mark your calendars with this date. Group plan renewals. This is when you go into MLPS and make your plan selections for your group. The period, again, will be August 26th through October 1st. So let's repeat that again. Renewals are released on August 26th and are due no later than October 1st. So of course, the Medical Trust, we're aware that during the plan renewal period, your groups are meeting with vestries, benefits, insurance committees, and other key decision makers to review and decide offerings for the new year. The earlier the selections are made, the better, but it's critical that the final decisions are made and submitted through the plan selection site, MLPS, no later than the deadline, October 1st. And this is key to a successful annual enrollment. If you don't make a selection, your members will not have plans to select from when they renew their annual enrollment choices. And last, we have an additional AE member communication mailings, including the Notice of Credible Coverage and our Session 1 and 2 brochures that we alluded to before. So we'll dive into the annual enrollment segment of the timeline in our later session date webinar on Thursday. Next slide, please, Bob. So there are several administrator education opportunities that occur throughout the year that we'd like to draw your attention to. So of course, there's the webinar. You're here today, and we're grateful for that. We also have on Thursday, again, the Annual Enrollment 101 webinar this week. And please do check cpg.org/ARC for more information on the AE webinar series. This year, we're also posting pre-recorded modules to our website with information about topics of interest. And finally, our Episcopal Benefits Administrators Conference, otherwise known as EBAC, will be held virtually this year in early October. Again, you can check ARC for more information. Next slide, please, Bob. So we're excited to present this new feature intended to make your life a little bit easier, we hope, for annual enrollment administration. This will be a central page on the CPG website where we'll post health plan renewal information, key dates, news, updates, education opportunities, really everything you need under the sun for annual enrollment administration. This web address is a centralized page. It's not yet available, but we will announce it soon, so stay tuned for that. And with that, I will pass it back over to Andrew. Thank you.
Thank you, Akina. Andrew's coming back on the line here. And Bob, you've read my mind. We are ready to go through the medical trusts pricing and renewal segments of that end-to-end journey. Remember, situate yourselves on that beautiful roadmap that we saw in the beginning of the presentation that Akina spoke to. We're heading into pricing and renewal. Again, today, we're not going to be announcing the medical trust's national average rate change for 2022. You'll have to join us on August 17th to hear that information. Go to cpg.org/ARC and make sure you register for those general AE webinars that we're holding in July and August, where we'll talk through those specifics. Today, we're going to talk more of the nuts and bolts about the methodology the Medical Trust uses, along with their pricing partners, to arrive at the group ratings. If you'll take me to the next slide, Bob, this is going to bring us into the overview of pricing and trends. Next up, Bob. Medical Trust recognizes that health benefits represent a large portion of our clients' budgets, and we're sensitive to balancing the needs of the church for cost containment with our responsibility as financial stewards. Therefore, the annual pricing process is very detailed, and it includes multiple steps to ensure that our analysis is balancing these considerations. Health plans typically develop their rating structures and their annual pricing actions based on several common methodologies or combinations thereof. These procedures will take into account various actuarial risk factors, data inputs, the experience of the plan, and other fundamental assumptions in order to determine the plan's exposure to risk, and then they'll price accordingly. The rating methodology that the Medical Trust uses considers our mission to the church, and it's a form of adjusted community rating. It's comprised of two main steps that we see here on the slide. Step one is a determination of the total required contributions for the plan. This is in the blue box titled overall. And then step two is an allocation of the total required contributions. This is the green box titled group specific. So as to overall factors, each year the Medical Trust reviews its total claims experience in order to determine the required levels of contributions that are needed to cover projected plan expenses. Those factors are listed here under the actual versus expected, the projected. Moving now to the right on this slide, the second step of annual pricing relates to the allocation of those overall required annual contributions across the Medical Trust participating groups. Medical Trust reviews all rating factors related to a group's current rating position to account for any significant variations from the prior year. And as a baseline to group-specific rating, the group's characteristics, which would include geographic cost of healthcare and demographics appropriate to the group, for example, age or gender, family composition, are initially analyzed, and then the 3 prior years of claim experience, to the extent that it's available, is also analyzed in order to validate the current contribution rate levels. Very high level discussion of the key factors in pricing. If you take me to the next slide, we're going to get into trend. So we'll talk about trend, and trend can be defined in a number of ways, but here what we mean is the projected increase in per capita costs of medical services that are used to calculate health plan contributions from year A to year B. So strictly as an example, just we're using an example number here. A 10% trend would mean that a plan that costs $10,000 per employee in year A would cost $11,000, 10% trend, in year B, as an example. So note that pricing trend is often higher than actual medical and pharmacy trends, especially from the health plan carrier's perspective. Pricing trend tends to be used as a barometer, meaning that it's giving a directional sense as to carrier sentiment, whether trend is increasing, it's on the rise, or it's decreasing, it's falling. This is a combination of factors which include whether carriers are seeing unit cost inflation for medical products or services, whether there's been a change in the frequency or intensity of the services that are being used by a population, and so on. Medical Trust will also review numerous healthcare cost trend studies that are widely available. These range from pure national estimates that are based on changes in cost, which these estimates will generally include either or both pre and post employer plan design change numbers. And we'll also look at carrier trend reports, which might be more reflective of fully insured smaller employer market, taking a broad view of trend studies in our pricing assumptions and process. If you bring me to the next slide, Bob, we're just going to look real quickly. Oh, that was a beautiful animation. I hadn't seen that. I want to say that there's a number of factors that can impact healthcare trend. They can be a mix of favorable factors or unfavorable factors. We've highlighted some, not all, of the factors that are considered by Medical Trust in their pricing process. In the interest of time, we're not going to speak to any one specific factor, just to note that this is some of the factors that we consider. And we'll just acknowledge them as we move on to our next segment. Maybe if we have time and anybody's interested, they saw one that drew their attention, we can come back to that during Q&A. So we've completed our pricing and trend overview. We're moving again along that roadmap of the end-to-end process into our next segment, which is health plan renewal, plan selection, annual renewal. It's a phase that goes by many names, but we're all talking about the same thing. Bob, if you bring me to the next slide. And this is showing the array of health plans that Medical Trust is offering in 2022. As Akina noted earlier, the Medical Trust is making no changes to its health plan array from 2021 to 2022. Our plan offering represents a range of plan designs of varying richness for both traditional PPO plans and those HSA qualified, those CDHP, consumer-directed health plan options. They're available with 2 vendors nationally, that's Anthem and Cigna, and we offer Kaiser plans on a regional basis. We'll note on this slide, it's not marked here, but we'll just call out that the Medicare secondary payer small employer exception plan equivalents are offered for eligible Anthem and Cigna PPO plan members. The C option, the small employer exception option, is not available for our Kaiser plan members. Seeing the array, if we can move to the next slide. Given that renewals are an annual process, we want to review the various elements that you'll find in your renewal package. This is the package that Medical Trust makes available to senior MLPS administrators on renewal release day, which is, I know you all wrote it down before, August 26th this year. On August 26th, we will send an announcement email letting group administrators know that their renewal package is available to access on MLPS. The senior MLPS administrator needs to log in order to access this material. Please note that we will include in that announcement email a link to a step-by-step plan instruction document. It's also available on cpg.org/annual enrollment, cpg.org/ARC for the administrators. I got excited, but I wanted to say is that we'll also post a copy of these instructions on that central AE admin page. These instructions will walk you through the process, how to access your plan selection sheet and make your selections in MLPS. We will go through the plan selection process a little later in this presentation, so stay tuned, but please do know that those instructions are available to you. So on the right side of the screen, we're noting some of the select documents that are posted to MLPS as part of your renewal package. That's the Medical Trust renewal letter. This is the central element of the renewal package. This provides an overview of healthcare cost trends. It details the Medical Trust pricing methodology we spoke a little bit about. It will note any plan changes for the new year. The administrative policy manual and the participating group agreement and the user consent agreement. These 3 interrelated documents should be reviewed carefully each year. The Administrative Policy Manual outlines the group's responsibilities and also includes important definitions and forms, policies and procedures for plan eligibility and enrollment, and other medical trust rules. A really critical document. I mentioned before, I think I mentioned, maybe later in the presentation I'll mention it now. You can access it quickly by going to cpg.org/APM. And the participating group agreement is the legal contract between your participating group and the medical trust for the health plan offering. Compass reports, these are detailed dashboards of enrollment, cost, and utilization. All groups will receive the medical trust national Compass report. Groups that have 50 or more members will also receive a group specific report. The renewal package will include instructions to help you interpret this information. We also provide in the renewal package our healthcare compliance notices. These are updated annually and mailed by the medical trust, legally required notices to be sent to enrolled employees each year. Typically, this is sent in September. And we also include administrator letter templates, which are customizable for the group administrators' communication efforts regarding the plans that they're selecting in the upcoming annual enrollment. Really, really helpful to have a look at, especially if you are making changes to your plan offering for the new year and you have members and plans going away, which we will talk about towards the end of our presentation, plans going away. I'm going to take us to the next slide in the interest of time. And this is hearkening us back to Akina's remarks about the the renewal timeline. We want to impress upon you that the key health plan renewal date is August 26, 2021, and selections must be submitted through MLPS no later than Friday, October 1st. Please take me to the next slide, which is to highlight, and I think if you could advance for me, Bob, thank you. This is highlighting specifically focusing in on communication, helping you to communicate to your associated institutions and employees. This is where I was going to mention the Administrative Policy Manual, which is available, again, cpg.org/APM. For more information about the responsibilities of group administrators and the obligations of participating groups as it relates to member communication. We highlighted the the administrator letter templates, and the plan comparison chart was the one I kind of glazed over real quick on the prior slide. This is also a document available through your renewal package, but we also want to call out, I think Akina mentioned the annual enrollment guide, which is really, really helpful tool, great resource to help employees to make their annual enrollment plan selections. Next slide, Bob, and this is where we're going to talk about the plan selection sheet, as we call it, plan selection page, how to do the plan selections in MLPS. On these next few slides, we're just going to run through a high-level overview of accessing your renewals and making the selections. Please remember that the renewal package announcement email, the email we're going to send to you on August 26th, will link to a set of instructions, takes you through step-by-step how to do this, how to submit your plan selection page, your plan selection sheet, and also how to request additional options if that should prove to be necessary. So what we're looking at on the screen here is the MLPS home screen. This is what appears after you've logged in as a senior MLPS administrator. In the navigation panel on the left side of the screen, you're going to want to click where the green arrow is pointing to plan selections under plans and rates. And that will bring you to the next page, which for me is the next slide. And this is where we're going to review the group's plan offering and actually make our picks. Here, we're going to need to either accept or decline each of the plans that are given in the group's offering. You must affirmatively accept or decline, whatever the choice is, each of the plans listed. You do not leave any radio buttons on the selection sheet blank, please. Please select either accept or decline, just to really hammer that home. When you click the blue submit button, a legal consent box will appear. This is just to confirm the group's agreement to the plans and rates offered, as well as reminding them of their obligations under the participating group agreement and the Administrative Policy Manual. If you bring me to the next slide, this is in the event that you need to request additional options through the plan selection sheet. Examples of what this means are requesting additional options. For example, if you are considering a change to your group's rate tiering from like a 2-tier to a 4-tier, or if you're considering buying up or down on the group's pharmacy benefit, from standard to premium RX or vice versa. This is where you'll make that request. In order to do this, you'll leave the radial buttons blank because you're going to make an additional option request. You'll check that additional option request box at the bottom of your sheet. Leave a comment describing your request in the text box that's titled, please specify your plan request, and then click the blue submit button. Our financial people, our plan pricing team, the MLPS system team will have a look at that request. And then when your additional option is ready to be reviewed, this will take us to the next slide. You'll receive notice that it's time to come back into MLPS using the process we just talked through, go to the plan selection sheet, and then you'll have an ability to select from the drop downs that are highlighted again here with these green arrows on the rate tier or the pharmacy options as you've requested in your additional option request. Click the View Plans button to refresh the plan selection sheet once you've selected what you want to see. Again, all of this is outlined in your plan selection instructions document on ARC, will be on our central AE admin page, linked in your renewal announcement email. This provides, again, the step-by-step process of completing your plan selections in MLPS, no later than the deadline, October 1st, 2021. If you bring me to the next slide, this is just to highlight, again, we mentioned the small employer exception plans earlier, the MSPC plans. If your group offers these Medicare secondary payer small employer exception plans, you'll want to be sure to accept those desired plan options on your selection sheet. The way to do that is to pay very close attention to the plan name. We have highlighted here, I should say underlined in green, the Anthem and Cigna MSP PPO 100 plans. You can tell they're the C plans because they say MSP in the title. If you wanted to compare that to a non-C plan, if you look at the second from the top row, it's in bold, the Anthem BCBS Blue Card PPO 100 plan. Conspicuously absent is that MSP reference. That means that that's the non-C plan. Just to highlight, and please reach out to your IBAMS account manager if you have any concerns about making sure that you're selecting the right offerings for your small employer exception offering if that's part of your group's array. If you bring me to the last slide, and I know that's music to everybody's ears, 430, last slide. This is highlighting important considerations for when a group has plans going away. So to tee this up, annual enrollment is a passive process, and what that means is that if a member does not wish to make any changes to their coverage, they don't have to log in to the AE site during annual enrollment. That being said, as I think we mentioned before, we are encouraging members always to engage with us, at least log in to look to make sure your demographic information is correct. Did you move? New phone number, new email? Make sure dependents are enrolled as you intend. Otherwise, if no change is desired for the new year, they don't have to come in and make any selection through the enrollment site. And as a reminder, as Akina said before, I think I echoed, Medical Trust is not discontinuing any plans for 2022. The array that we've offered, that we've covered earlier, the array that we have in 2021 is the same array we're offering to clients in 2022. So what does all of this mean? This means that plans going away in 2022 is only going to apply when a participating group decides during the health plan renewal, plan selections, to no longer offer a plan that's part of their array in 2021 and there are members enrolled in that plan. In that case, members enrolled in that plan no longer being offered by the participating group would be considered in a plan going away. Those members must actively participate in annual enrollment and select 2022 coverage. If they don't make a selection, they're in a plan going away, they don't participate in annual enrollment, they don't make a pick of their 2022 plan, they will not have coverage in 2022. So really, really important to track those folks that are in plans going away. Fortunately, and as you are likely aware, MLPS has a number of tools and reports that are available to help you as the administrator to manage your membership through annual enrollment. That includes specific reports for members and plans going away. As always, please reach out to your IBAMS account specialist if you need help with your MLPS, the plan selection process, with managing your group, accessing reports. They are available to support you. And with that, I think we're maybe a minute over according to my watch, but we are at the presentation end, and I'm going to turn this back over to Bob to bring it all home.
Thank you, Andrew and Akina. People tell me that when I preach sometimes that I suffer from the affliction of enthusiasm. And I think Andrew
I've worked up a bit of a sweat, I'm not gonna lie.
but enthusiastic about what you're doing. It's a good thing, right? So thank you both for all the information. It's a lot of information given to you. Again, this presentation, the PowerPoint presentation, is available to you now in the handouts window of the GoToWebinar control panel, so you can download this now. We do want to give an opportunity. We are at time, but we have some more time. If any of you have questions that you want to ask Andrew or Akina concerning group plan selection renewal for 2022, please go ahead and type those into your group or into your question window of the GoToWebinar control panel. Or if you want to ask a live question, if you notice in your GoToWebinar control panel on the left-hand side, you should see a little hand icon. That's the raised hand icon. If you click on that, I will see that you have raised your hand. I will unmute you, and then you are free to ask your question or make your comment. So as of right now, we have no questions. So either everyone is just, I'm not sure. Either your presentation was so complete or everyone on the webinar right now are experienced administrators who know how this works. We have one question. Hold on. Will enrollment be passive as in the past? Will annual enrollment be passive?
Coming back online, yes, great question. So medical trusts active member annual enrollment, as in the past, is a passive process. The exception to that statement is when, I'm sorry, I'm looking over here, that's where the people are, sorry. The exception to that is when you have members in a plan going away. If a member's in a plan going away, that means that they can't passively participate in annual enrollment. They've got no place to go. They have to find a new offering, something of the group's offerings for the new year. So annual enrollment, by and large, is passive unless you are not offering a plan next year that you offered this year and members are in that plan going away. Then those members must actively participate with us. Great question.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you, David, for your comment. Next question. This year, can you provide comparison charts that are based on our individual selections? You do provide, but we always have to ask. Don't need the full comparison charts, just the ones we select. Do you have comment about that, Andrew?
We do make available custom group comparison charts upon request, and I will say I'm very sorry that a request has to be made, that it's not just provided, but it is a manual process to create those custom charts, and with 100 and some groups, just a question of efficiency. We could say that you're requesting, I don't know what group that's from, but if their IBAM's account specialist is on right now, we can tally that request and say it's done, and we'll make it available. It won't be posted through the plan selection site. It will be provided separately when, you know, your renewal package, but we can certainly say requested now and let's do it. That's very fine. But to do it for everybody, it's not efficient. We found folks don't use it, and then it's time that was spent doing something that could be spent doing something else, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'll actually add to that, Andrew, that was great. Something to keep in mind, and we'll go through this on Thursday when we go through the annual enrollment process. Once the plans are actually selected, and once your members go into the annual enrollment site to make decisions, there will be plan comparison charts available with only your selections. And that is, again, once the annual enrollment process begins and your members begin to make their selection. So we do have those, you know, without request, but that's just a different part of the process. But to your point, with this renewal process, as Andrew said, you would need to make the request for the customized chart from your IBAM's account manager, and we'll make that available to you.
Thank you both. Next question. August 17th is the rate I'm sorry, let me start that again. August 17th is rate change discussion, right? And ditto on the custom comparison. Oh, would be great to get those automatically. I had trouble getting the charts in the past. Just a comment, just for our edification and hopefully much more of their ease for this year's process.
So what I can say, I mean, certainly to this audience, if you desire one of those custom plan comparison charts, I would strongly recommend. We have the questions here. We'll note who's asking for them now. But I would strongly recommend reach out to your IBAMS account specialist. I think the spring outreach calls are going on right now, right? So that could be part of the conversation, something you'd like to see in your renewals. Just raise that now, and we'll be more than happy to make sure that we're able to provide it. Might not be, again, be in the selection site just because of the way that we load those documents, but it's something that can absolutely be provided on request. You can request it anytime. I think that's very fair. Now, to answer that question, August 17th is the day that we will have our general AE admin webinar number 2, and we will be releasing the medical trust national average rate change for 2022. Go to the ARC, go to cpg.org/ARC, the webinars registration page, and I think you sign up for the general webinar 1, which is July 28th. You'll also register for the following, the August 17th webinar. And what I want to point out about the July 28th webinar, we'll be announcing on that webinar, and these are things you may be familiar with if, for example, you're with us at BPC, some of the plan eligibility and design changes that will be effective January 1st of next year. So you don't want to miss that one as well. I know the pricing gets all the fun, but plan design, it's got a special place in my heart. That's what I'm working on. So please join me in July for that conversation.
When you register for one of the webinars, you automatically register for both of them, the July and August webinars. So you only have to register once and you'll be registered for both of those. All right, I see no other questions at this point, and I know that we have gone over time almost 10 minutes. So what I am going to say is thank you, everyone. And thank you, Akina and Andrew, for the information you gave, and thank all of you for giving us part of your time. When you leave, you will get a request to do a very quick survey. We ask that you complete that, and we really do honestly take your recommendations, your critiques, and your comments to heart, and we change as a result of it. So please go ahead and do the survey. It'll be very quick. And that's it. Thank you all. Until Thursday, if you're registered for the annual enrollment webinar this coming Thursday, we'll see you then. And this ends this webinar. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. Now,
Thanks,
see you
everybody.
Thursday.